Just my people. Yeah.
Also, sorry about the scroll. I would like to call the regular Planning Commission meeting of December 13th to order at 6 p.m. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Commissioner Burney.
Present.
Commissioner Stafford.
Present.
Commissioner Seals.
Present.
And Commissioner Bushnell and Sage L are absent and excused. We have a quorum.
I'd like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask everybody, please turn their phones on silent, please. Does the commission have any adjustments to tonight's meeting agenda? If the commission would like to discuss anything under the consent agenda, such as the minutes, they need to be pulled out and put under new business at this time. Hearing no changes to the agenda will stand as presented. Do we have a report from the City Deputy Administrator?
Thank you. We are proceeding forward with our sets, and we're soliciting surveys for a clear understanding what the priorities should be for the city based on what the residents want and the businesses want. We also are doing Light of Wasilla right now, which is a contest for businesses and residents to show off their decorations for the holidays, and then the mayor will be recognizing a commercial winner and a residential winner in January. So they can submit their pictures on our Facebook page, and we're getting lots of good photos.
Thank you. City Attorney.
Good evening, everyone. Nothing to report today.
Thank you. City Planner.
The only thing that I have to report is for the January meeting. It's just a reminder to the Planning Commission, you'll be electing the new chair and vice chair. We hope to have a new commissioner appointed the first part of January, but they won't be able to participate until the February meeting. So you'll be operating as a 4-member body at that time. Currently, the agenda has 2 elevated short-term rental Airbnb permits that will be on the agenda, a medical office, and that's it at this time. We still have a few days that we could take applications for January, so that may change slightly, but that'll give you an idea of what you're moving forward with. The item to extend the landscape committee was scheduled for last night's city council meeting, but due to the inclement weather, that meeting was canceled. So that will be up for approval by the council on January 9th. So it's anticipated that the landscape committee will start meeting again that following Monday.
Thank you very much. Anyone wishing to step forward to discuss anything not on the agenda tonight, do so now. present. The next item of business is the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Bernie.
See? The consent agenda is approved as presented. New business. Ms. Crawford, would you please introduce item 1 and provide your staff report, please?
For the record, Tina Crawford, City Planner. The first item under public hearing and the only, well, no, we have 2 items under public hearing tonight, is use permit 22-12 and the associated resolution 22-06. The applicant is Jaymie Gomez. The company name is Valhalla Working Canine Kennels. The request is for a personal dog kennel with up to 8 dogs. For personal dogs, and then commercial dog training, boarding, and breeding kennel. That was the initial request. You'll see in your package, I'll go through it in the staff report, that's been modified slightly. That was the initial request, and then it's been modified for less intense use. The lot area is approximately 5 acres. It's located at 2410 West James T. Circle. The property is zoned rural residential and has a mixed-use future land use designation on it. So in your package, beginning on page 7, you have the staff report that goes through the general approval criteria that the commission has to consider and find that they are met in order to approve the request. Before I get into those, you do have a handout that was given to you tonight, and it was emailed to the city attorney and to Commissioner Bernie. It's just a visual representation of the lots within that area. And then the last sheet, the red outlined parcels are the ones that provided comments. The blue outlined parcel is the subject property. It just kind of gives you an idea if you needed a visual tool instead of just looking at the written comments in the package. So just to give you a little bit of history on this property, initially, code compliance received some complaints about unpermitted dog boarding, training, and kennel and personal dogs. I think there was 1 or 2 others that came in that were the exact same. Code compliance contacted the owners. They immediately got with planning department to find out what the requirements were to have the particular operation that they're looking to have. They also went online and tried to register their dogs, which is required in the city limits. But because they have more than the 4 that's allowed by code, by right, they're required to get kennel approval from via a use permit to have more than 4 dogs. So 5 or more, regardless of whether it's personal use, commercial use, it requires approval. Just looking through. So I met with the applicant, went over the criteria, the general approval criteria, what some of the concerns, that had been received about the property. So in those conversations, what you have in your package as their application is a modified request. And so that request is to have up to 8 personal dogs. 2 of those are service dogs for the property owner. So there's actually 6 pets, 2 service dogs. And that they're requesting the ability to train and house 2 additional dogs that will be prepared for service dogs for, I believe, military veterans. I'll let them go into more detail as to what that is. That's my understanding, is that's how they'll be used. They'll be service animals. And so the only training that would be occurring on site is for the recipients of those service animals to come on site to learn how to work with their animals. No other commercial boarding or training would be permitted on the site. So just to give you a little bit of background too, because the code, there are criteria in the code, and it talks about special requirements. One of the ones is that they have to have the kennel buildings have to be, and the runs have to be a minimum of 50 feet away from a residentially zoned lot line. As you can see from the drawing that's in the packet on, lost my page 21 in your package, they well exceed that. They're approximately 110 feet from the northern lot line, 107 from the southern, 220 from the eastern lot line, and 335 feet from the western lot line. So, in going through all of the criteria, you have them in the staff report on page 7, beginning on page 7 in your package. With this modified approval and with some recommended conditions, staff found that the proposed use does meet the criteria and recommends approval. So on page 15, you have the conditions that staff is recommending. The first one is that there be no more than 8 personal dogs allowed at any time. The second one is that no more than 2 service dogs may be trained and/or boarded on the lot at any time. On-site training for the service dog owners is permitted. The third one deals with the concerns about noise, mitigation, and impact. The third and fourth ones do. The third condition states that opaque fencing must be installed between each exterior run and at the end of each exterior run to limit visual contact between dogs and any wildlife in the area. The fourth condition is that they install either a 6-foot opaque fence or a 4-foot high evergreen hedge around the perimeter of the dog kennel building. The fifth condition is that dogs must be supervised at all times while outside the kennel. And the sixth one is that the Borough Fire Chief's office must review the proposal for compliance with any applicable fire codes. So when you look at our definition in the code, there's only basically 2 sections of the code that deal with kennels. You have a definition, that's where it says that if you have more than 4 dogs, you're defined as a kennel, regardless of whether it's for commercial or personal use. You have that specific approval criteria that's referenced in the criteria that only says you have to be 50 feet away. And then you have the ability as the Planning Commission to add conditions to any application that comes forward. So I just wanted the commission to know that you do have, if you believe that the conditions are necessary to mitigate any potential noise from that, you are authorized in the city code to do that. You can either approve, deny, or approve with conditions the request that's in front of you tonight. And then the last thing that I wanted to add, just as a note, is part of my review for this is looking at the code, looking at the requirements that are in the code, the general approval criteria. Because of the way that our code is written, it does not give any size of the lot to the number of dog ratio. That's not in the specific approval criteria. The only specific approval criteria is that setback. They clearly meet that. But clearly that's not the only thing you need to look at. There is the potential for noise, and how can you mitigate that to allow them to be compatible. I just wanted to give you some information on why I recommended approval for up to the 8 personal dogs and the 2 service dogs. Is again, our definition is applied equally to a 20,000 square foot lot or a 40-acre lot. This is a 5-acre lot. It's not on a small lot that's right next to its neighbors. You can see in the aerial photograph in your package on page 19 what this area looks like. So it's staff's opinion with this modified request that's in front of you tonight that gets rid of the boarding and training of a commercial use, only allows the 2 service dogs plus their personal dogs. That should be compatible and comply with the criteria that's in your code. Obviously, it was elevated to the Planning Commission because of the number of concerns that we had submitted by the public. This gives them an opportunity to hear from the applicant, ask any questions, and it's the typical policy and practice that's outlined in the code for elevation. So that's why you have it in front of you tonight. The code does authorize the city planner to approve it as after the notice is done, but again, because of the number of comments, we felt that it was appropriate to elevate it for a public hearing. So with that, I will pause. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I know the applicant can give you more in-depth detail about, their operation and their proposal.
I have a question for you. And they have 6 dogs currently plus 2 service dogs?
Yes, that's my understanding. I would confirm that with the applicant, but that is my understanding. Or it was at the time that this was written up.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to make a presentation regarding the proposed request?
Yes, please. Would you like me to step forward?
Step up to the mic. Please write your name and contact information on the sign-up sheet. State your name for the record. You have 5 minutes to provide your comments.
Jaymie Gomez. Good evening. My name is Jaymie Gomez, and my husband and children are sitting right behind me. We're the owners of Valhalla Working Canine. I'm here before you this evening to present our business to the city of Wasilla. We reside at 2410 West James T. Circle on a 5-acre parcel. I'm a Marine veteran. After serving 10 honorable years of active duty, 2 deployments, my husband is still active duty with several deployments under his belt as well. Being a veteran diagnosed with complex PTSD, anxiety, and depression, I know more than most about needing a service dog in this community. Struggling with suicidal ideations for years, my service dog Mila has been imperative to my success outside of the military. We started this company in hopes to give back and help other veterans by breeding service dog prospects and providing training and service task training for the life of the dog. We have lost countless brothers and sisters to suicide because resources such as ours were not available to them. We are here to save lives and give hope for a better future. When we first looked at this property, our realtor at the time did not tell us we were in city limits. He said we were going to have no issues with our personal dogs or running our business. We should have obviously done our own homework, and we know that now. He failed to provide covenants until we closed on the house. And like I said, we were unaware we were in city limits until we received 9 city code violations 4 months later. We immediately got with Tina, and we tried to fix all of them right away to be within compliance. We chose this property because of the privacy and space it provides between us and our residents, or our other residents. There are only 2 properties that surround us that have residents on the property, and they are located at the west and northwest of our residence and detached shop. The remaining 4 parcels are currently vacant with no homes on the properties. After a review of all the responses in regards to our application, we would like our neighbors to know we hear and understand their concerns and have implemented many controls and procedures in our company and our home to mitigate them. Many of the concerns have submitted in regards to the number of dogs. Like Tina said, we request that we can have our 8 personal dogs, 2 being service dogs. Right now, the city code does not specify that service dogs are exempt, even though they are considered medical devices. And then the 2 additional board and train dogs for service work. We do not want to be a 20-plus dog boarding facility. In regards to noise complaints, we have also made the decision to eliminate the unsupervised outdoor runs to mitigate unwarranted barking. We have read through all the responses, and the majority of them state that they hear our dogs nonstop all the time. We would like our neighbors to know our dogs are not allowed outside unsupervised and are kenneled inside our home or inside our shop. All dogs that have been known to bark, they wear bark collars to help with the barking. Other concerns submitted are the amount of traffic. I think everybody was concerned about the amount of traffic on the road and the crime rate that would increase. The amount of traffic for our business would be no more than if I were to have food delivered 3 times a day. or if I were to be coming and going from my own personal residence to go do my business outside of my home. So it's going to be the same amount of traffic regardless. We are not here to cause issues with our neighbors and are willing to accommodate certain aspects of our plan. We're here to make a difference in our community by providing service dogs to veterans. We ask that the board considers a minimum of our proposal to allow our 8 personal canines, 2 of them being service dogs, and additional 2 service dog trainings on the facility at a time. We also ask that we be allowed to host 1 training class a week and select private lessons so that our current clients can keep up with their training and be successful long term. Thank you for your time.
Public comments portion of the public hearing is now open for the elevated use permit 22-12. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? You have 5 minutes to provide your comments.
Would you like me to?
Please write your name and contact information.
Yes, sir.
The sign-up sheet and state your name for the record. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, my name is Gail Walden. I reside at 2422 West James T. Circle. Coming into the meeting, was not aware of the conditions that were in place, so I just reviewed that information, so that's kind of interesting. I'm just going to go through a little bit of what I wrote in my comments to begin with. I do not support what was originally proposed as far as dog training, boarding, and breeding kennel at that address, the 2410. Biggest thing is that the city of Wasilla defines zones. We are considered rural residential, which words like very low density rural residential, very low intensity of residential use are in that definition. The lot at the very end of the subdivision is where the applicant Jaymie Gomez lives. So everyone that drives to that home drives by everybody, and they drive by twice because it's a cul-de-sac. While there are vacant lots, those are not going to always be vacant lots. And people, can build on those lots as they choose in those locations. I am concerned about the additional road noise, dust, potholes, increased traffic. Our road is very quiet, and there's a reason for that. We like it that way. We've lived in our home for 20 years. The prior owners had it marketed as a horse facility. There was no issue with that. There is precedent in our subdivision. I submitted it in 2007. There was a kennel that was denied, though the specific application things may be slightly different. Our neighborhood does not generally support that. So my heart goes out to the Gomez family. I think that, the service aspect of it is good, but when you're talking about, different aspects of it, I'm definitely concerned, and I feel like they were really misled and didn't get all the information before they purchased a very expensive property. But we have most, of us that have lived there for a long time, we want to keep it a nice, quiet community. We don't want people in our neighborhood that shouldn't be there. So my heart goes out to the Gomez family. And that's all. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you.
Anyone else like to make comments?
Pardon me?
I asked if anyone else would like to make comments.
Yes.
Please write your name and contact information on the sign-up sheet and state your name for the record. 5 minutes.
My name is James Mack. I've lived on that property for almost 40 years. And I'm afraid what's gonna happen, the dog kennel's gonna bring our property values down. And I will fight if that happens, the borough, you know, because it's wrong, it's gonna be noisy, traffic. And who wants to buy a 5-acre lot with a dog kennel right next to it? Feeding time. I don't care if they're in the house, in the barn, you're gonna hear them. One of the neighbors that bought 5 acres by us, he used to own a dog kennel, and he says you can't keep him from barking. Even with, I had a dog that barked and had shock collars on it, and it didn't help. So I really against the kennel, traffic-wise, property value-wise. We work hard for what we got, and I don't want it to depreciate, and that's what's gonna happen, I think. Would you buy a house next to a dog kennel? So, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment at this time?
My name is Ken Way. I reside on Mack Drive. I've been there for 10 years now. And one of the main reasons I bought that place was the covenants that was in place with no sled dog teams and no more than 2 dogs per family, no more than 2 horses. That was in our covenants. I'm sorry that they didn't get those covenants prior to buying it. That's not my fault. I don't want to have a dog kennel in my backyard. Thanks.
Thank you.
Brittany Pintal. I have been actually working with Jaymie for a little over a year now. I am a disabled veteran and my service dog passed when I moved up here. So I used her to help me find a new puppy and have been doing training with her. I've been to her house. She first was running everything out of her other house that was also down the street actually. That was just like I think 1 block outside of city limits. No issues as far as like noise complaints or even when I was there training. I've been on this property as well with my service dog in training, and I have not heard any of the dogs in the shop barking. I know she does her best to negate barking. Usually if I'm on the phone, I hear her yelling at the dogs to stop barking more than I hear the dogs barking. So I know that that is something that she makes sure is not an issue at all. Her property is really, really big. There is a lot for the dogs to do. Every dog is in a kennel, whether it is outside or inside, and always watched, which is why I feel safe having my dog there. If I am out and I need it to be boarded and do a board and train. I really do trust what she is doing, and I know she has given a lot of dogs to veterans and really does want to work and help veterans. So it's very disheartening to hear all of her neighbors rally against her when she's not technically running a kennel or what would be really considered a kennel, when it is her personal dogs and just 2 dogs that she's actually training for veterans with PTSD. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to make a comment?
Good evening, my name's Mark Bingley, lived in this neighborhood since 1997. I oppose this application. I'd ask the council to review the submitted written comments from the neighbors that were affected. My family and I have 4 properties in close proximity to include next door to the south of the applicant. Unfortunately, that's the side that the newly constructed kennels are facing directly to the neighbor residential properties. So we oppose the application for a kennel that the 8 personal pets is excessive and well above the city's 4-dog or pet limit. Traffic, it's a dead-end street, plus I live off on South Mac Road, so all of the people visiting to and from will drive past my properties. My heart goes out to them. I'm a veteran as well. If they would have just done some looking into this sort of thing, it would have been a lot easier instead of trying to mitigate it at the end. It's too late to start doing a major commercial operation. And I don't even know, is there a count on how many dog stalls are in the facility that's been constructed on the south side of the property? You guys have the diagram of the building, or if anybody wants to.
We haven't constructed anything yet.
No. You can please hold your comments.
So is there a question, will there be a question opportunity back and forth or anything like that between the applicant and concerned citizens? Or a period for questions? Because communication I think is important for this. That looking at the Till Valhalla Facebook site, it shows construction of, I want to say, 8 kennels on the south side for dog runs. So if the personal dogs are inside the residence, how many dogs are outside the residence adjacent to the shop on the south side would be my question. That's on the side that unfortunately is facing most of the residential lots that are on the top portion of that image. The left side on that image. Yeah, we didn't see the site plan. Is that something we can see?
Pausing his comments?
Please.
Or his time?
Please pause his comment.
And Mr. Chair, while she's pulling that up, just to answer his question, the public hearing process for these type of items does not allow for a Q&A. However, the applicant will have a rebuttal at the end, so they can certainly, the commission can ask them questions and ask them to provide those answers, but as far as a back and forth dialogue, that's not part of it.
I was pretty sure of that, and I knew that there would be a chance to respond.
So, can you rotate that, Tahira?
Yeah, no, that's not the north, sorry.
So what you have on the screen there is the site plan. The north is the top of the page, south is the bottom of the page. It's also in the package on page 21. If you want to look at it there. So you can see it has an arrow pointing to the proposed indoor-outdoor dog kennels. And these are existing structures that are already on the property. It was just an enclosure of the carport. The kennels is what was planned. Yeah, I guess you want to go ahead and.
Go ahead and
Okay, so
comment.
as I understand it, the construction has occurred in that carport area there on the southeast side of the facility in advance of any plan approval or kennel approval. Which seems a little bit premature because it's been constructed. The building has been modified before approval here from this body. So I would just ask that the city not approve this application and that a more suitable commercial site be identified to provide this much-needed service, but not in a residential area, especially with potential homes being built directly adjacent to this property as well as around on the other sides. And I thank you for the opportunity. Thanks.
Anyone else that would like to?
Good evening. So my name's Jaymie Mack. I live at 2456 West James T Circle. Been there over 20 years. We oppose the construction of this or the approval of this for a lot of the same reasons that you hear. Every single piece of traffic that drives down that road has to drive by everybody's house. The extra dust, noise in the neighborhood with the dogs, the 50-foot setback from the property lines. I understand you have to have something for a code. Noise travels way farther than that. Dogs can be heard barking way farther than 50 feet away. Hats off to what they're doing. I think it's great service to provide for people, service dogs, companions. Even 8 personal dogs is excessive. That goes over what the city approves. If you approve it for one person, you have to approve it for every single person that ever comes in here and does it. So just keep that in mind. I feel bad that they got misled by their realtor and that they didn't do the homework themselves to realize they're in the city limits. I don't really buy that, especially if they lived in the area for a while. I think they just moved up here from out of state not too long ago, but not knowing they're in the city limits when they buy a piece of property, they had to have known that and had to have known that there's city rules that go along with that already in place. I think their business would be a great idea in a different location, just not in a residential area that has quiet roads, and it's a dirt road, low density road. The dust that's going to be kicked up is bad enough with the people that live on the road. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to provide comments?
Hello, my name is Antonina Gavronsky. We recently have purchased a 5-acre lot, almost 4.77. I never wanted that many acres. My husband has been looking for more acres ever since we moved back to Alaska in 2011. He looked every day. We lived in other neighborhood on a 1-acre lot with the house that I loved every inch of it. And finally he found this lot. And then I just happened to, actually the person that lived on the lot that the dog boarding is proposed, he used to be our kids' teacher. He was a PE teacher and English teacher, and so our kids used to help him out with his horses, and I never knew where they're going because he would like either pick them up or somebody would give him a ride, my husband and then I just happened to like check out like that neighborhood one time. They used to like pick up garbage on that street, and it used to, like that person who lived there, he used to take care of that street really good. It was like always garbage picked up, and so when we moved in, I told kids, make sure you pick up the garbage too. And so 5 of our older kids are out of the house, and we still have, our youngest is 5, and we have 2 young girls. So when we actually found this land. I told my husband, well, when I was driving in to see if there's like any properties, or I wasn't even looking for properties, but when I drove in, I don't know why I was driving sometimes, like moving back to Alaska, I was like, I have to like get something out of my system to just like drive around. And, so I saw there was that property for sale and the house next to it, and I called the realtor and he said, first we have to sell this house and then we can sell the property. And then when my husband found it on Craigslist, he's like, oh, I found this property. I'm like, oh, every property you find, it's like either something was wrong with it. But we went to look at it and I'm like, oh, that's the property that I left the number with the realtor, and she never called me back, but the guy was selling it by owner. So I'm like, oh, it's a cul-de-sac, so it could be a good thing because we have young kids. And so he finally like got me to like that property. So we bought it, and now if the business that is proposed happens, I wouldn't feel safe for like kids going on bikes down that street because of the traffic and all the dust also. Like even right now, if it doesn't rain for a long time, all the dust just like goes towards our house. And so just my concern is the driving fast on whoever is going to be driving by, and the dust. And I'm scared of dogs myself. We have our personal dog. Our boys wanted it, and I'm like, Toby, you don't touch me, you know that, you know the rules. I give him food, I give him water, I make sure boys feed him, but he does not touch me. Or my cousin's dog bit me on my boot one time in Delta Junction in 1995, and ever since I was just running out of the house because it was really windy, and the dog like chased me down the field. And so personally, we have a dog, but I never touch dogs. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Hello, my name is Barbara Mack. I live with James Mack on 2401 West James T Circle, which is right next to the Gomez people. And I agree that it's a good idea for veterans, and it's a good thing that they're doing, but it's just in the wrong location. They should have checked into that better, and they should move it to another location that would be more suitable for dog training and kenneling. And also, no one has mentioned anything about her wanting to breed her female dogs, which she has 4 of them that she wants to breed every year, and that's going to be lots of puppies. Well, those people that want to see the puppies and buy the puppies have to drive all the way down the road at least twice to see if they want a puppy, and then if they decide they want one, they come back to get the puppy, and back and forth. And another thing is, we've noticed our road is getting damaged more quickly because there's more traffic on it, more potholes and more dust. Plus, we've noticed there's a lot more litter on the road than there used to be. When it was just our neighborhood, we kind of all took care of it. And I just feel like it's going to cause a lot more traffic and a lot more noise and extra people going in our neighborhood, looking around our neighborhood to see what's there and things like that. We've been really protective of our neighborhood. If we see people come in the neighborhood, we tell people, that they're there, and then they look out for them, and they make sure they're not damaging their property or going on their property or doing anything like that. So we're just trying to keep a safe neighborhood for families to grow up in and stuff. So thank you for your attention. Have a good day.
Hi, my name is Christina Way, and I live with my husband Ken Way at 1801 South Mac Drive. I think their business idea is a really great idea. My husband Ken served in the Air Force over 20 years. He is a disabled veteran, so I think that's a great thing for them to do, but I also believe that it should be done not in a residential area, but in a business area because of the traffic and everything else that everyone else has said. Thank you.
Anybody else that would like to make a public comment? No other audience comments. The public comment portion of the public hearing is closed. Does the applicant have anything else to address?
Yes.
Step forward.
Good evening again. To address some of the concerns from our neighborhood, yes, in our proposal is we breed service dog prospects so that we can donate them to veterans as well as the training. Just because I have a certain amount of females does not mean that those females are going to be bred every single year. The last litter that we had was actually in 2001. So we didn't even have a litter this year. We're probably not going to have one next year. Dogs have to be of a certain age. We have to completely help test them, make sure that they're suitable to have puppies that are going to have very long lives and healthy lives. As far as causing damage to the road, litter, all that stuff, we haven't even been there long enough or operated at a level that we could cause that much damage to the road. We don't walk our personal dogs on the road. Some of the other neighbors do, but we don't walk we have enough acreage that we can walk our dogs on our own land. So we don't have dog waste being left, anywhere. And as far as safety, and a lot of these comments, a lot of people expressed that our dogs could be a safety issue to their families and their pets and their kids. I have 2 children. Both my children can handle any one of my dogs and walk them through any store, and they will obey. My dogs don't leave my property. My dogs are not left outside unattended. They are trained. I am a dog trainer, and that is what I do. All of my dogs are either ESA or service dog quality. All my dogs are not service dogs, my personal dogs, obviously, but they are the quality because that's what I train my dogs to the caliber of. So it's a little absurd. I mean, if people are scared of dogs, I get it. I mean, some dogs are scared. Some people are scared. There was a comment in here saying because of the type of breed of dogs that I have, that they're a danger. But if I were to walk into here with my service dog, which I wanted to bring her, but I did not, out of consideration for people that may have been allergic to her, they would have said, they could say, oh, she's dangerous and I'm terrified of her, but she's working. She's a medical device that's trying to save my life when I need it. I hear and I understand all of my neighbors' concerns. When you drive by a sled dog kennel and all that barking, I get it. People don't want to live next to that. And that's not what we are. We're considerate. I wish our neighbors would have come to us and expressed their concerns and asked us, I know that they were sent this notification with not a lot of detail until they came to this hearing, or the planning committee. And last thing is, we have made the very hard decision. I heard a commentary is like, well, don't they have 10 personal dogs? We had 9, and we have been making the really rough decision to rehome dogs that don't fit our program, that we know we can't breed, that won't have the right temperament to create service dogs. So instead of being selfish and holding on to them, we have been sending them out to homes where they can be successful to lower our personal numbers. And we're still continuing to do so that we can at least be within city code without trying to get a personal kennel license, in fear that we won't even get approved for a kennel license for our personal dogs. We have invested our entire life savings into this. We have been working so hard to do this, and I would not have knowingly purchased a property. It was almost $1 million, and invested my whole life into this if I knew that I was going to have an entire neighborhood rally behind me or rally against me to try to push us out. We've spoken to numerous of the homeowners when we first arrived. One of our neighbors we spoke to before we even signed our paperwork and was like, we're excited and we have our own dogs and we want to do this business. Not once said anything. Not once. So if their concerns were so high, they should have said something in the beginning to save us this heartache. All right, that's all I have. You guys have any questions for me?
Have you obtained a copy of the covenants for this
Yes.
area?
Yes.
And does that state the number of pets in it?
It does. It says 2.
And was this received before purchase or after purchase?
After purchase. Our realtor that sold our other home helped us do some research and she found it.
Is there an active homeowners association in this neighborhood?
Not that I know of. I would like to say that there are other owners on the street that own more than 2 personal dogs. So.
Time now. Mr. Bernie, you have any questions?
I'll wait until we.
Actually, Mr. Chair, this is the commission's only opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. So after they do after this, you won't have another opportunity. You will close it and you will have to make a motion and then it'll be discussion just amongst the commissioners. So if there are any questions, now's the time to ask them.
That's why I asked the other commissioners.
I just want to make sure Mr. Bernie knew that because he had.
Well, I have a question. Because coffee makes to return.
Mr. Bernie, you're breaking up very badly.
I'm sorry, for the considering I join property are
Since he's having difficulty, you can text his question to me and then I could read him out, but we're not able to hear the question.
Could you text your question to the city planner, Mr. Bernie, please?
Yes.
If anybody has any question, they can see the phone. I'll just read it. I can give it to the chair and he can read the question. But otherwise you won't be able to. So what he texted just says, quiet enjoyment of property versus our current code. I'm not sure where he was going with that, but. all it says.
Is that your question, Mr. Bernie?
Oh, he says it's for the attorney. The question is for the attorney.
I'm trying to understand what the actual question is, though.
So I'm not sure if he's looking for how do you balance the quiet enjoyment of property versus the code's restrictions. I'm not sure. It could go either way.
Yeah, well, I mean, the code has certain uses that are authorized in the rural residential district. Some of them are administrative permits, some are use permits, some are conditional use permits. When you're presented with an application for a use permit like this one, you're going to have to consider all the factors that are presented in the code, which are outlined in Tina's memo, and the specific standards applicable to the application, and to decide whether the applicant met its burden of proof for the requested permit.
Mr. Bernie also followed up and said it's about the neighborhood rights.
Oh, he must be talking about the covenants. And I have not seen the covenants. I don't know that the municipality is party to those covenants. I don't think that it has any enforcement rights under those covenants. Those would be private rights. So while the commission could grant a permit here, they could deny a permit, but if they granted the permit, there may be an issue for the applicant down the road.
Could you give us any specifics of what those down the road things could be?
Well, I mean, I don't know if someone could bring an action to enforce the covenants. There may be legal defenses to those covenants, but I'm not the applicant's attorney. And likewise, I wouldn't be the opponent's attorney either. I wouldn't recommend one way or the other. But there are private rights, and affected property owners could want to enforce those rights and try to enforce the covenants.
Well, then they'd have to make sure that those covenants were enforced on all of them equally as well, I assume.
Yeah, one would think. I don't, if they don't have, it would be on every individual property owner within that subdivision or that's subject to the covenants to bring whatever enforcement right if there's not an association in place.
Does that satisfy your question, Commissioner Bernie?
So he also texted through, he says, I don't think this is a good precedence to set. I feel extremely bad for the owners. And then he said, yes, I think in response to your question. They came through at the same time, but. Now, Mr. Chair, if you don't object, just wanted to point out that decisions by and the city attorney, I'd love for you to jump in, but it's my understanding that their decisions are not precedent setting. They're on a case-by-case basis, depending upon the specific conditions and activities on that site. So my understanding that no decision by the Planning Commission is precedent setting, nor does it tie your hands for future decisions to cause you to take those same actions. Just also to reinforce what the city attorney said about covenants and restrictions, the city does not enforce those. If I'm aware of them as a city planner, for example, what I run into the most often is a lot comes up for sale, covenants say single family only, the zoning's rural residential, meets the requirements and setbacks for a duplex. I tell them I can issue you a duplex permit and you can build it. Now, some private owner may take civil action against you and try and enforce those covenants, but that's between you and that property owner. The city's not going to deny you the permit or the ability because we do not enforce those. Those are private restrictions between owners. So, just wanted to make that clear. And in the district use chart for the city, it outlines what's an administrative approval, a use permit, and a conditional use. All of those are types of permits that can be permitted, but as the city attorney pointed out, it's the applicant's burden of proof to show that they met all those general approval criteria and that there are appropriate safeguards to allow that compatibility between uses. But this one is not even a conditional use, it's a use permit. It's something that could, again, as I stated earlier, could be approved by the city planner, or it can be elevated to the planning commission. So I know there was a couple comments about that the city does not allow more than 4 dogs. That's not actually true. The code allows you to request the ability to have more dogs. Again, you have to address those criteria and ensure that compatibility. So I don't want the commission to get the idea that the code prohibits more than 4. It does not prohibit, it just requires a different approval process.
I have a question for the city planner. Has any of the residents that supplied comments, did they give you a copy of the covenants of the neighborhood?
I would have to look in the packet and see if they were included.
Didn't see any.
Tara, do you remember if they gave us a copy?
There's no copy.
Okay, so we did not receive a copy of the covenants. That is not part of our permit research.
Commissioners have any other comments or questions at this time?
Just some thoughts I have. I know traffic is a concern. I know I live on Stone Ridge, which is at the beginning of Mac on the KGB side, and so since they put Mac all the way through over to Clapp Road, I've enjoyed the extra access. I really have. It cut my drive time down to the niece's and nephew's house down in half. But it did increase traffic on the road, and there is no shoulders. Be nice if the city would eventually, widen Mac a little bit, give us some shoulders. I know the city has a plan to, they're hoping like by 2025 to pave all city roads, which I guess would include James T since it's inside the city limits. Living nearby, we've walked and driven down James T every now and then, a couple times a year, and extra traffic on a gravel road like that would definitely have an impact. And then I don't live close enough to hear any of the extra noise. It does sound like these dogs would be better kept than my neighbors who let their dogs run wild and defecate in my lawn constantly. So it does sound like that would be better addressed by the fact that they are in kennels. But I do know that Mac Road is getting a lot more use now, and I don't know how much more this would increase it. It doesn't sound like a super high impact, but so those are kind of the things I'm considering as I'm considering how I would respond to this.
So if I can stop you there, Commissioner Stafford, those are great comments for discussion once there's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
If you could just direct questions to the applicant and or
Okay.
the city planner or the city attorney, and then bring those up again, or at least reference them again once the motion's on the floor, so that.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So then just one question for, so 8 dogs plus 2, they're being trained?
Correct.
Plus, so then if you begin to breed, there would be more than 8 dogs, right? If there was a litter of, I don't have a lot of dog experience,
Well,
say 4 puppies, then there would be 4
Correct.
additional dogs.
Correct. However, the city of Wasilla states that dogs under the 6 months of age are not considered, pets or in the home, and they all will be homed around 8
Around
days.
that, okay, so they wouldn't be counted until about 6 months, and by then they'll be
long gone.
They'll be farmed out, okay.
Yes. And that's maybe 1 litter a year, maybe.
Maybe, okay, thank you. That would probably be my only question for clarification then.
Mr. Bernie?
He just asked, the service is not great, is it appropriate to answer via text? So I told him yes. See if he responds. Guess we can give him just a minute.
Now I need a motion to either approve or deny elevated use permit 2212, resolution serial number 2206.
Commissioner Stafford, so moved.
So move to approve.
Oh, sorry, my bad. So moved to approve.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Bernie, here, I'm gonna let you see this, just because I just don't want there to be anything like I'm misleading, whatever. But you can see what he said. He said yes, he seconded.
Okay. Is there any discussion by the commission?
Commissioner Stafford, the thoughts I'm weighing out is what was mentioned, what I mentioned earlier, the traffic that this might bring, and then the noise issues that would impact the surrounding land, property owners are the thoughts that I don't know if that's just what I'm considering when I look at this, is how does that impact?
Well, there is a plan to have all city roads paved by 2025. There are lots of new residential properties being developed all around the city and outside the city. Things do change. And that's all I have. Does Mr. Bernie have anything else? Commissioner Bernie?
Nothing that's come through yet.
Give it just a
And
minute.
you got,
Just for the audience and the commission, because there are only 3 members present, it must be a unanimous vote. If there is not a unanimous vote to approve it as presented in the packet, then you will need to take an alternative motion to deny it, and then come up with findings of fact, and I can help you with that if that's the way the commission goes. He just said, give me a minute.
Or Tina, just real quick, sorry to jump in over you. I think there's one more alternative on an elevated permit like this. There is the possibility of, with concurrence with the applicant, to return the approval of the planner for further review on as a new use permit application. So there's been some comments from the public, and maybe she wants to incorporate those into a revised plan. I'm not sure.
So I believe, I remember coming across that. Do you have that section handy?
Yeah, Tina, it's 16.16.020. But the applicant would have to agree with that.
Okay, so I'll just read that into the record. It states, for the decision for an elevated permit, the commission shall review the planner's draft recommendation and may hear comments from reviewing parties, the applicant, and the public. The commission shall decide either to deny, approve, or approve with conditions, or the commission may, with the concurrence of the applicant, return the approval to the planner for further review as a new use permit application. What that would entail is a new submittal of the description of the proposed use, a new public notice mailing, and then depending on that, the responses that are received from that, it could either be approved by the city planner, myself, or elevated back to the planning commission.
Correct.
That would be up to the applicant, correct?
Well, it says the commission may do it with concurrence of the applicant. That's your other option. So approve, deny, approve with conditions. modification, which is what the Reso is in front of you, or ask the applicant if they would concur with that, basically returning the approval back to me and then having them resubmit it as a use permit, a new one. So I would suggest you could ask them to come forward and ask them if they'd be interested, if you want to know that as part of your deliberations.
The applicant like to come forward. Did you understand what was being discussed just now?
Yes.
Would you like to bring this back to the city planner?
If it's denied? That's your question, correct? If it's denied, to bring it back to the city planner with alterations?
Yeah. Yes.
Possibly, depends.
So, I'll let you read that now.
Yeah, I'll read it. I really appreciate, this is Commissioner Burney speaking. I really appreciate what the landowner is trying to do. I am a vet and served during Desert Storm. I have lost friends and friends going through PTSD. I also have an understanding of what the neighborhood's concerns are. I'm going to have to say no.
Okay.
So, I think with that information,
We have our answer.
well, you can actually come back with a different use permit through the planner.
So there would be two, if that gives you the no vote, then it would be denied. The applicant could either appeal the denial, or they could request the commission to return it back to the city planner for further review as a new use permit.
Those are your options.
Okay.
I think the last option would probably be your best bet.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to discuss with my husband
Yeah.
before we decide.
So,
So, Mr. Chair, if I could ask the city attorney, so with the option, just his opinion on that language in the code that says, or the commission may, with the concurrence of the applicant, return it for a new use permit, can that be done after the denial, or is it?
I think that you can do it without denying it. The way that I read this language, the commission will either deny the application, they'll approve it with conditions, or if the applicant agrees, the commission can refer this back to the planner for a new use permit application.
So once the denial is made, that option goes away, they would just have to appeal it to Superior Court?
Yeah, yeah.
If they don't do the concurrence?
I believe that you would, I have to look at the appeal procedure. I didn't think that it went straight to the Supreme Court.
It does, it goes
I thought it
straight.
went to a hearing officer.
It does not, it goes straight to the Superior Court for appeal.
All right, I didn't look at that before the meeting today.
I have a question. Can I just ask a question?
sure.
So one of the main concerns is the commercial use of it, but what about our personal dogs? Because we can't, or would we be allowed to submit for a use permit for our personal dogs?
Well, that would be part of that submittal for review as a new use. You could revise your submittal at that point to just request to have more than the 4 dogs. They're over 6 months of age. without the commercial component of it. That would be part of that resubmittal. You can do that.
Okay.
Like I said, if you feel the decision's in error, then you can appeal it to Superior Court if you take the denial. So it sounds like, based on what the attorney said, the commission needs an answer now before they vote so that you have the option for that resubmittal.
Once we vote, there's no option
And
but
then
to
Superior
vote.
Court's the next step.
So,
I mean, regardless, we're gonna need to submit a use permit for our personal dogs, because it's considered a kennel at that point. So we would have to go with that option.
I as chair suggest that that would be your best bet for this evening. Concur?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have no vote.
I was gonna say, if we could ask the city attorney what kind of action the commission needs to take.
At this point.
Well, I don't quite understand, would the applicant like to have the commission refer this back to the planner for a new use permit application?
Yes, that's what she said she wanted to do.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. So I think you would make a motion
That's what I thought.
to return the approval to the planner for further review as a new use permit application based upon the testimony received during the public hearing and the concurrence of the applicant.
Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion to return this to the planner.
Do we have a second, Commissioner Burney?
He's just, oh, he did second it, but he said, I can't understand what the attorney is saying. I can hear you just fine. Can you repeat what he said?
So Commissioner Burney, I was saying that I believe a motion would need to be made to return the matter to the planner for further review as a new use permit application with the concurrence of the applicant based upon the findings and the testimony received at trial. Or, sorry, not trial, during the public hearing.
So he just texted again that he can't understand, so I don't know if it's the Wi-Fi connection, so I'll just read in and hopefully Commissioner Burney can. So the applicant has indicated that they would like to take advantage of the option for the commission to return the approval of the use permit back to the planner for further review as a new use permit application. There's been a motion made by Commissioner
Stafford.
My mind is cluttered. And the chair is looking for a second. So if you could just confirm that you heard me, the applicant has concurred with this action.
May I ask a question?
So he says he got it now. He understands.
And he already
So-
gave a second.
Yeah, Commissioner Burney, are you still offering your second to that motion? He said yes.
Well, I say we call for a vote.
So Commissioner Burney, we'll wait. Commissioner Stafford,
Yes.
Commissioner Seals.
Yes.
He texted yes. And what I'll do is this particular chain of text, I'll post it online so everyone can see what came through and from his number. So we will attach it to the link for the meeting packet for tonight. We'll do it tomorrow so everyone can see the dialogue. I know it's not typical that we would do it this way, but otherwise we wouldn't have a quorum and he's out of town in obviously a bad Wi-Fi location.
part of the hearing is now over. Thank you, Al, for your comments, and thank you, applicant, for your application. Mr. Schwal, would you please introduce item number 2, please?
Mr. Chair, can I recommend a 5-minute recess?
Sure. No? Sorry.
You can ask me a question.
You can ask the city planner a question.
Yeah, you can ask me a question.
Yes.
Okay, so they didn't decide. What they did was they sent it back to me, and there'll be a new application submitted. You'll get a new notice with the description of exactly what they're asking for, the amended request, and you'll get a comment period like you just did for this last.
And then you told Commissioner Bernie said no.
No, he said he would vote no to approve it as it was presented tonight.
Right.
So-
But as a no, then the only option will refer back to you.
Yeah, right.
That was just under his comment section. He was just, so when the commission does comments, with motions on the floor and they're discussing it, they will try and persuade the other commissioners to their point of view, share their information, why they're supporting it, why they're opposing it, whatever. So that's what he was saying, was, if it goes forward as is, then I would have to vote no. Because they, yeah.
It was very confusing.
Yeah, and we'll send you out something in writing. You'll get a letter later this week that tells you what happened, how it's gonna be redone. that
Thank
kind
you
of
for your
stuff.
time, gentlemen.
So you will get.
Thank you for coming out.
Michael Schwartz.
Has left.
Sam.
Has left.
No, what I said was, the vote has to receive the majority of the commission, which is 3. So whether there's 3 people present, 4 people present, or 5, 3 people have to vote yes for any application or to be approved. So you have to
Michael Schwartz.
your comments. They heard that.
Has joined.
What they offered to the applicant was that ability to submit a
Sam.
Has joined.
And they telephonically counts. I'd have to get with the city clerk. And then you could email me and I could check with the city clerk. It's my understanding that yes, that does count. The city clerk is the official. I know they use it for the city council also, just to have. So I would assume that it must be. If she's familiar with the Alaska. But the decision's not based on the residents, it's based on what meets the criteria.
I'd like to call the December 13th Planning Commission meeting back to order. Mr. Schwartz, would you please introduce item number 2?
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you want the city attorney to introduce this?
No, sorry, he said Mr. Shaw is the City of Public Works Director.
Sorry, I apologize.
No worries.
It's my phone.
You're good.
All right, so I'd like to introduce myself just real quick and then I'll introduce it. So my name is Eric Schall. I'm the new Public Works Director. And this resolution is a resolution of the Wasilla Planning Commission supporting the goals and initiatives of the annual CIP process. This will flow into our budget process, which will go, of course, into the city council meetings as we move into the new year. What is in your packet is an updated version of a similar document that the Planning Commission reviewed last year about this time that outlines the general goals for the next 5 fiscal years. And you'll see that there are 10 projects listed ranging from the airport through road paving. We talked a little bit about that with the prior Planning Commission item. DOT project partnerships, downtown improvements, train station improvements, town site improvements, Idita Park improvements, Lake Lucille campground improvements, and Bumpus Ball Field improvements. There's a little bit more information on page 95 of your packet, talking a little bit more about what the general goals are for each of those projects. These will then roll into a document that has some costs associated with them, broken down by fiscal year. This is used for the city council to forecast expected expenditures so that we can make sure that our fund balances are ready, that it aligns with their strategic goals for improvements or repairs to city infrastructure. You will notice that the plan to have all city streets paved by fiscal year 25 doesn't lead us through fiscal year 27. The anticipation is we'll move, once everything's paved, we'll move into a continual pavement restoration project. If you're not paving, you better be repairing your paved roads before they fall apart. Just a couple more topics I'll touch on. We're working closely with the airport users to receive input on our airport so that we can bolster FAA funding to expand and improve our airport facilities. We are still trying to extend the runway from 3,700 feet out to 5,100 feet, which would provide a new level of service and improve access for current and future users that we hope to provide better services for. A couple other projects. The downtown improvement project is a joint project with DOT to build a couplet that will add some new roadways, new crossing across Parks Highway, provide one-way access in and out of downtown core, improve sidewalks, on-street parking, really give the downtown the feel that the residents and the city council would like to see, really revitalize the downtown and provide for better pedestrian walkability as well as better safety and just be a major facelift to downtown. There's also the long-awaited train station improvement project. You'll recall that the train station has been moved to a new facility further away from the KGB crossing so that the couplet project can happen and also the train won't impact traffic across that crossing. And then we've got the Idita Park improvements, the Lake Lucille campground improvements, and the Bumpus Ball Field improvements, which I would put kind of in the Parks and Rec expansion or improvement phase, if you would. The planner has stepped out to deal with some other business, but at this point, I think the order of business is to, let me flip back. I am the city staff and the applicant. So at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the commission.
I'm Commissioner Seals. In the downtown overlay, I'd like to see how you could put a pretty face on the transmission shop.
We'll see what we can do.
In this, how closely is the city working with DOT on Main Street?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So the partnership with DOT comes down to the level of we have been negotiating with private landowners and DOT to fine-tune the design to meet the desires of the community. So there's been some discussions which have changed some of the on-street parking to address driveway accesses to some of the parcels. So DOT is actively listening to the landowners and the city's requests for slight modifications to where there is parking versus just a green space or the curb alignment. What will happen next is we will continue to work with them as they develop their design to make sure that we are prepared for any underground utility replacements if we need to do that. We are also going to be putting money into the project to place above ground utilities like electrical and telecom underground. And there's also a sharing portion in the costs where the city of Wasilla will bring a certain percentage of match into the project to help complete the project. And so DOT is at about 85% design right now, which is close, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So they're still forecasting it to be ready to bid in about 2 years.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of comments from business owners, especially on the western side of Main Street. And what is proposed, they're not highly in favor of at all. And being a city of commerce where we want to take care of our businesses, I really want to see some good work put into that section. I think it's from Bogart to the actual parks on the west side. I haven't had any negative comments from the east side, and the post office doesn't really care. Yeah, the storm drainage at Nelson, Bogart turns to Nelson, right?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, so the drainage on the west side there has been an issue for a long time with the elevation of the road versus the elevation of the businesses. So I really want to see that addressed in an equal footing between the city, the DOT, and the present business owners. Is my concern there.
One thing to note about that project is we will take over management of this new construction. So we're very vested in making sure it's the right long-term decision, both for drainage, as you said. We have met with some of those property owners that have voiced concerns. DOT has gone back and modified their designs, and the ultimate goal for DOT is to bring a design that will garner an agreement in the form of a temporary and long-term easement. So the proof is in the pudding when the property owner signs that easement. That's where the negotiation has to happen. So we are in communication with DOT to work on the list of property owners who will not sign yet. When everyone has signed, then we know that we have the green light from those property owners, and that's a hurdle that DOT is very familiar with. We are working to make sure that the design and what gets constructed is what the city of Wasilla wants and what Public Works wants to make sure we can maintain. We're not giving ourselves a maintenance or management nightmare.
Yeah, and the business owners should be a key factor for the city because several of the owners have been there for quite a long time, and they've maintained that side of the road for business access. So being a planning commissioner and people knowing that I'm a planning commissioner, I've had multiple people address me with their concerns, and so I just want to make sure that it's equitable for all.
Understood, thank you.
Okay, Let's see, public comment.
Unfortunately, Mr. Burney is in a bad spot. Mr. Burney, can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there we go.
Is this the time for us to be making comments?
Public comments portion. Seeing as there's no one wishing to speak, the public comment portion of the public hearing is closed. No other audience comments. Oh, that's double. That's great. Does the Public Works Director have anything else to address?
I don't at this time.
Now I need a motion to either approve or deny resolution serial number 2207.
Commissioner Stafford move to approve.
Do I have a second? I second it. Is there any discussion by the commission?
I'd like to make a few comments to the Public Works Director if I could. I think improving and increasing the capacity of the airport we're probably behind the curve on getting that done. I think there's a lot of opportunity that could be there as far as those that have the means to have private jets and want to come to Alaska. I think it'd be a great alternative landing site versus, say, Anchorage. I do have a question. The Fern Street, Herman Road extension, most of that is outside of city limits. Is that something we'd be putting money towards, or?
Yes, so through the chair, that is a joint project with Matsu Borough, and there's some DOT money in there as well. So it touches some of the city limits, so we are a partner in it, and there will be a portion of match that the city is responsible for. It'll be a very important improvement to the traffic flow there. It's a very difficult intersection, and it causes a lot of strife. And so as we talk about being pro-business, every business over there will benefit from having better, smoother, safer, less frustrating access. So we're excited for that connection because it's a pretty obvious improvement to traffic flow and customer happiness with the shops over there.
So even though the work's outside city limits, it'll help get traffic through there, which will benefit the businesses there. At one point, on the train station improvements, at one point I believe there was discussion about placing an intermodal train facility near the airport. Is that still in the thought process at all, or have we kind of settled on the area down closer to the lake where the depot was moved to?
Correct. So through the chair, I believe that the railroad has stated that they don't see a value in partnering for an airport intermodal facility. We do know that there is support for the intermodal facility where the new station is located. The airport's location and the wetlands around the right-of-way for the railroad make it complicated. If the city felt that it wanted to lead that still. So it's not to say that it's completely excluded, but the downtown train depot
It's
is more viable at this point, yes.
Okay. And then the Idea Park improvements, I think, is a good idea. And I realize this wouldn't be in your scope as public work directors, but I think the city, there's probably public safety concerns there that I think an improved park is great, but I know parents that hesitate to take their kids there just because of some of the safety concerns with older teens running around and bullying and some stuff that's gone on there. So I don't know if there can be conversations with the police department about making sure that they're aware that, yeah.
Through the chair, the nefarious activities within parks are always a problem. And so parks staff are always looking for ways to make legitimate activities more useful in the facilities and dissuade, nefarious activities. So some of the things that we do are plan out proper lighting, make buildings oriented so that they're safer to be around. We're always concerned with vagrancy and vandalism, and so it's incremental, and it's always on the forefront of the Parks Department to make it inviting for residents and uninviting for people with bad intentions or who want to make it an uncomfortable place. So it's always on the top of our goal with all the improvements and repairs and maintenance that we do.
Yeah. And then the Lake Lucille campground, I think that's a hidden treasure in city limits. I'm glad that we got that from the borough a while back. I think there's a lot that we can utilize there to really, there's a lot of people that doesn't know it's back there, so I think that'll be a great. Riley Avenue's been extended to go by it, but it's unpaved and pretty rough. Is there plans to improve Riley Avenue?
Yes, through the chair, I don't remember what fiscal year it's on, but I'm almost positive it's on the paving plan somewhere. And we are actively improving facilities out at the Lake Lucille campground, working with the neighbors to make sure that the improvements aren't impactful to the neighbors.
Yeah.
But then, just like other parks, we want it to be inviting to our visitors and uninviting to people that would make it uncomfortable or do nefarious activities there in the off hours.
Yeah, the little trail system that's there at the park is one of my favorite spots to walk. So, yeah, I think these are all good projects. Definitely worthy of our attention.
Mr. Bernie up.
He said he was there. Mr. Bernie, are you still there?
I am.
Do you have any?
Can you hear me?
Do you have any discussion, Commissioner Bernie?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I just want to know financial position at the airport.
Oh, where are we at with the airport expansion financially?
Yes.
Through the chair, we are working through the master plan to satisfy FAA requirements. And if the master plan should show that we have enough usage by the right size aircraft, then we will be eligible to partner with them for grants that are available. So we're going through the required process to build consensus with the FAA. And then when we have that consensus, we'll have granting opportunities, and there'll be match required, but we'll have a bunch of hurdles out of the way to show that it's necessary, beneficial for the community, checks all the boxes for FAA, and then we can put the funds that we have set aside and move ahead and see a huge influx in funding to make that happen.
Well, I'm looking forward to
With no more discussion, all in favor of resolution serial number 2207, please say aye. Any opposed, please say nay.
Commissioner Stafford, aye.
Commissioner Seals, aye.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bernie, can you please repeat that?
Aye.
Thank you.
The motion passes. And we were all in favor unanimously. Into unfinished business. There's no unfinished business. We move on to communications. Do we have? The following items are under communications or in the packet. Any comments?
Mr. Chair, just for the commission, note your 2023 meeting calendar is included.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you. And we move on to audience comments. We have no audience. Staff comments. Do you have any comments, Dina?
I appreciate the planning commission dealing with the technical difficulties and everything, and I apologize for not bringing up the option to do, I read it today and for some reason it just didn't stick as an option to have them resubmit as a use permit. So I appreciate the attorney sharing that information. And just for the commission, letting you know, I was explaining to some of the residents how the process works and what the city attorney's role is to advise you guys to make sure that you're making legally defensible decisions that are consistent with the code, and that's a lot of what my input to the commission is too, is not necessarily, at least at the end point, to try and sway you, but make sure that you're aware of what the code does and what the ramifications are. And then I've offered to meet with any of them, you know, about the process or about the particular application.
Any other staff comments? Any commission comments?
Commissioner Stafford, City Planner, I just want to say thank you for doing their best to address the citizens' concerns, and we appreciate what you do.
I have a question about some permits that we already approved. I heard that, I think it's Classic Collision, Sheppo's, and the church on the hill above the old Sears
Can you
building.
push your button until it turns red?
And the building above?
Yes, the church.
Yes. I hear they cannot get COs because there's not enough water for their fire suppression system.
So COs are issued by the Borough Fire Marshal. That's not something that the city's involved with.
Yeah, but it's the infrastructure, it would be city property, correct? It'd be city infrastructure that,
Yeah, I know just a little bit about on the periphery, but I know there's been conversations with the applicant and the fire marshal, and the city has had, was Eric in those meetings? He just had to leave, but
Yeah.
Eric wasn't in the
Eric
meetings.
was, yeah, I
Yeah,
think about
so the
that.
Public Works Director was in the meetings.
I
So
saw
I
him
think they're
leave.
trying to work through all the process, but as far as exactly where they are and, you know, what the status is for that one, I don't know. For Cheppo's, they're moving forward. They're addressing the compliance issue about the clearing, so that's all still rolling forward, moving forward. And then, if you say Classic Collision, if you're talking about the auto repair between Lithia and Ford,
Yeah.
that property, they completed it, and I believe they may have a couple minor landscaping things to address, but for the most part, they're,
I just heard several people mention that there was a problem with utilities and not enough water. So I didn't know if that was city utilities on that row.
I believe that city water is in that area. As to who's connected and who isn't, that would be a public works director.
And he left.
Yeah, I know, I was gonna say. Unfortunately, I mean, we could check into it and then get back with you with the report, but
Yeah, and I can stop in and talk.
Okay.
Is his office here? And
yes, he's just in the wing
Yeah.
opposite of where planning is and the mayor's office is.
Yeah, we issued permits for these businesses to open, and if there's a problem with the business open, I like to make sure they can open. It's very important. Thank you. Hearing no other business to come before the commission, this meeting is adjourned.